Star Trek legends have been known to dip their toes in the fetid swamp that is the horror movie world. The novelty of seeing these actors away from the clean and family-friendly Star Trek universe and getting covered in gore or fighting terrifying supernatural forces is enough to make any of these flicks worth your time to watch. So with that in mind then, I'm Ellie with Trek Culture, and here are 10 Star Trek legends who starred in horror movies. Number 10. Andrew Robinson in HELLRAISER 1987. The Cardassian tailor Garak, played by Andrew Robinson in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, is beloved by fans for his cutting remarks and witty sarcasm. In 1987, before becoming Garak, Robinson played Larry in Clive Barker's iconic genre-changing masterpiece HELLRAISER. Julia, Larry's adulterous wife, seduces and kills men to feed Frank, her dead brother-in-law, who was also her lover before he died. Frank has escaped from hell and grows stronger each time she brings him another victim. He is eventually strong enough to take over the body of his poor brother Larry. Cenobites, demons to some, angels to others, including Hell Priest Pinhead, come up from their realm of pain to drag Frank back down. Seeing Larry turn from the mild-mannered family man into leering sadist chasing daughter Kirsty displays the extent of the actor's talent. Robinson was offered the opportunity to appear in the first sequel, HELLBOUND, HELLRAISER II, but despite the success of HELLRAISER, the pay was less. He ultimately turned it down and never returned to the franchise. Number 9. DeForest Kelley in Night of the Lepus, 1972. The grumpy, no-nonsense Dr. Bones McCoy was a major part of the original Star Trek series. His arguments with Spock produced some funny moments as well as thought-provoking philosophy across the series and the movies. His character's catchphrase, "I'm a doctor, not a
bricklayer, mechanic, coal miner,"
made him a favourite amongst fans. In his final non-Star Trek movie, DeForest Kelley plays college president Elgin Clark. Clark, wanting an ecological alternative to poison for his friend's rabbit infestation, contacts zoologist Roy for help. While experimenting with hormones and chemicals on lab rabbits, a test subject escapes, leading to the already pesky rabbits becoming giant, bloodthirsty killers that terrorize the town and surrounding farms and ranches. It may not be a big screen classic, but Night of the Lepus is a fun watch nonetheless, even if it is just for the goofy special effects and Kelly's moustache. Number 8. Patrick Stewart in LIFEFORCE 1985. This movie comes from horror icon Tobe Hooper, the director of Poltergeist and the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. 3 shape-shifting vampires, 1 female and 2 males, are found by astronauts in a comet and brought to Earth. Instead of feeding on blood, they drain their victims of their life force. Stewart plays Dr. Armstrong, a hospital manager whose body is used as a hiding place by the perpetually nude female space vampire. The aliens transform a large part of London's population into zombie-like creatures, causing chaos in the capital. This movie also features Stewart's first on-screen kiss, shared with co-star Steve Railsback. LIFEFORCE came 2 years before Patrick Stewart would take the role of Captain Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek The Next Generation. Jean-Luc is a role he would play across 176 episodes and 4 movies, and later his own series Picard. Number 7. Jeri Ryan in Dracula 2001-2000. 7 of 9, the Borg drone rescued from the Collective, became a valued crew member in Star Trek Voyager. Jeri Ryan reprised this role in the recent Picard series. In 2000's Dracula 2001, though, she played Valerie Sharp, a TV news reporter who was turned into a vampire by the seductive titular vampire. Resistance was indeed futile. When thieves steal the silver casket containing the imprisoned Dracula, they unwittingly release the monster. Drac learns he has a telekinetic link with a young girl called Mary, all because Van Helsing, her estranged father and Dracula's old enemy, has spent years injecting himself with the legendary vampire's blood in order to prolong his own life. During this time, he conceived Mary, who is now a young woman pursued through New Orleans by her father's nemesis. Ryan isn't given much to do here beyond being one of Dracula's sultry and scantily clad minions. In 2019, she also starred alongside fellow Star Trek legend William Shatner in another horror movie, the frankly awful Devil's Revenge. Number 6. Robert Beltran in Night of the Comet, 1984. Before he was the wise and charming Commander Chakotay on the starship Voyager, Robert Beltran played Hector in post-apocalyptic sci-fi horror cult classic Night of the Comet. Regina and Samantha navigate the streets of Los Angeles the morning after a catastrophic event. The Earth has passed through the tail of a comet, which has turned humans into piles of red dust. The only survivors are those who, like Regina and Samantha, have spent the night surrounded by steel. Those who were only partially surrounded by steel have become cannibalistic mutants. Regina and Samantha meet Hector at a radio station where their broadcast is heard by scientists surviving underground. The trio not only have to fight off comet zombies and learn to survive together, but they must also contend with the pursuing scientists who wish to harvest their uninfected blood. Beltran turned down this role 3 times before eventually being enticed by money, billing, and the opportunity to adjust the character of Hector. The character became more of a reluctant hero than what he described as just a rehash of his role in Eating Raoul, a Mexican immigrant and a professional thief. Number 5. Nichelle Nichols in The Supernaturals 1986. After playing Uhura in Star Trek on TV and film for around 20 years, Nichelle Nichols starred in the mostly forgotten supernatural zombie action horror, The Supernaturals. This film came out just a few months before the release of Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, where she would once again return to the role of Uhura. Nichols played Leona Hawkins, a tough US Army sergeant. Hawkins and her platoon, consisting mostly of cowards and morons, head down south to the woods for a training exercise. It just so happens that the woods they have chosen was the site of a historic atrocity, where the inhabitants of a Confederate town were killed by Northern soldiers during the American Civil War. When the platoon loses radio contact and becomes isolated, the bodies of those cruelly murdered a century ago begin to rise as ghouls looking for revenge. It's pretty basic stuff, and it's easy to tell Nichols is not putting in her best effort, delivering lines with little passion. Future Star Trek hero LeVar Burton also has a role in this film as Private Osgood, a year before he would star as Geordi LaForge in Star Trek The Next Generation. Number 4. Leonard Nimoy in Invasion of the Body Snatchers 1978. The remake of 1956 sci-fi masterpiece Invasion of the Body Snatchers comes over 2 decades after the original. This version of the movie is considered one of the greatest remakes of all time, along with The Fly and The Thing. Leonard Spock Nimoy stars alongside Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams and Jeff Goldblum in this terrifying thriller that had much to say about modern society that is still relevant today. It is more than just mere paranoia, as life forms from a dying planet have begun replacing humans with replicas. Nimoy plays Dr. Kibner and gives a genuinely creepy performance, delivering the chillingly deadpan line, "We adapt and we survive. The function of life is survival." Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a masterclass in eerie suspense and tense paranoid drama, aided by great performances from the cast. This 1978 film presented an opportunity for Leonard Nimoy to escape the Spock typecast, though it was only the following year that he would return to his most famous role for Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Number 3. LeVar Burton in Rise of the Zombies 2012. LeVar Burton earned his title as a Star Trek legend due to his part as Geordi LaForge in Star Trek The Next Generation, and because of his work behind the camera across multiple series of the franchise. 10 years after playing LaForge for the last time in Nemesis, Burton landed a role in the 2012 undead tale Rise of the Zombies. This film comes from the infamous movie studio The Asylum. The Asylum has a reputation for releasing mockbusters, movies that share similar names and plots with upcoming films from the larger studios. A group of survivors fleeing the zombie-infested city of San Francisco take refuge in the Alcatraz prison. Among the survivors is Dr. Halpern, who is frustrated with the lack of a live specimen. The undead eventually make it to the famous prison island, meaning the group must vacate and go on the run. It is unlikely you have ever seen LeVar Burton in anything as gory as this. Number 2. Scott Bakula in Lord of Illusions 1995. Clive Barker directs this chilling adaptation of his own short story, The Last Illusion. For Scott Bakula, Lord of Illusions comes between his role in the classic science fiction TV series Quantum Leap and his time as Captain Archer on Star Trek Enterprise, the prequel to the original series. Throughout his long career as an actor, this marks Bakula's only horror movie in which he plays the lead. Before he can perform a sacrifice, Nyx, a cult leader with supernatural powers, is killed by followers Swan and Quaid. 13 years after his apparent death, Nyx's cult remains fanatical. When Quaid is found dead all those years later, Dorothea, the wife of Swan, hires private detective Harry Demure to investigate the murder. Dorothea fears her husband, now a famous magician, will be next as the dangerous cult await the return of their leader. Although Lord of Illusions only made a small profit at the box office, the picture was generally praised, with the visual effects in particular impressing critics. Number 1. William Shatner in Kingdom of the Spiders, 1977. Kingdom of the Spiders came almost a decade after the original series of Star Trek ended. The 1977 sci-fi horror was unleashed 2 years before Shatner took the Captain Kirk role to the big screen for the first time in Star Trek the Motion Picture. This skin-crawling caper was released during the bug horror boom of the late 1970s. Along with the likes of The Savage Bees, It Happened at Lakewood Manor, and Squirm. William Captain Kirk Shatner plays a small-town veterinarian, Rack Hansen, fighting wave after wave of killer tarantulas. The killing starts with farm animals, but it quickly becomes clear that any living thing in the path of these arachnids is in deathly danger. The vet must use all his cunning and bravery to ensure that as many of the locals as possible survive the onslaught from the army of creepy, crawling killers. This is not for the faint-hearted, nor is it for anyone remotely concerned about animal welfare. Unlike the careful, spider-friendly approach the filmmaking adopted by the crew of Arachnophobia in 1990, many spiders were killed during the production of Kingdom of the Spiders. Shatner later expressed regret about this fact in his 2008 autobiography, Up Till Now. And that concludes our list. If you can think of any other examples, then do let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also, head over to Twitter and follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with Trek Culture. I hope you have a wonderful day, and remember to boldly go where no one has gone before.